Hey, everybody, and welcome to Monster Monday for July 20th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Alright, everybody, today on Monster Monday, we are going to be looking at the Gruul Scrapper. And if you were expecting to find this live on Twitch, sorry, but there has been a conflict, so I had to pre-record this, and it will go live at its usual time, 8 p.m. on YouTube. So, I am away tonight because my team is playing in the MLS's back tournament. Kickoff is at 8 p.m., unfortunately. So instead of missing a Monster Monday, I decided to pre-record this and put it up for you guys. As usual, since you're watching this on YouTube, if you like what we're doing here, go ahead and click the subscribe channel, click the post notification bell. That way you will get notified anytime we put a new video up on the channel. Also in the description, you'll find all the links for my social media and all the information about the live streams that I do every week. Okay, let's move on with our Gruul Scrapper. Now, Gruul Scrapper is a creature card that comes out of the Guild Pact expansion for Magic the Gathering. Now, that is a 2006 set that comes from the first time that Magic the Gathering explored the realm of Ravnica. And so it's one that I mined and I used for my Walker of Waterdeep, my plains hopping campaign that I am doing. Gruul Scrapper is a human berserker from the Gruul clans, and when the PCs in my campaign went to Ravnica, this was a monster that they fought as they made their way back to the city after meeting with the Zerta clan of the Gruul. Now, monster lore for the Gruul Scrapper. The Gruul are just disparate clans. They don't have really a single leader. Right now, there's a Cyclops that kind of is nominally the leader of the Gruul clans, and he's the actual leader of the Burning Tree clan, which is the strongest of the 10 clans at the time. But there's not really any kind of organized plan that the Gruul have. They just like tearing things down. There's kind of a little bit of a backstory of them as being sort of guardians of nature, and somehow over the thousands and thousands of years, they have come to see the civilization of Ravnica as an enemy of nature, and they just want to burn it all down and give the world back over to the natural processes, the natural forces of the world. Now, when you convert a character from Magic the Gathering to D&D, you need to find a creature type for it. Now, there's creature types in Magic the Gathering, there's creature types in D&D, and those two don't always line up. In D&D, this is a humanoid. So humanoids are all of the normal races that you expect to find with PCs, but it also has a lot of your very popular, in air quotes, evil civilized races. Things like your goblins, your orcs, gnolls, those types of things are all humanoids, and they typically have a language. They typically are bipedal and use weapons and usually have access to magic of one kind or another. All right, as members of the Gruul clans, the default terrain for the Gruul Scrapper is the desert. In Ravnica, it's either the city or it's the rubble outside the city. And the rubble outside the city is pretty much desert. It's arid, inhospitable, hot, dry, dusty, um, filled with ruins, uh, and all that kind of stuff. So it's desert terrain. All right, for flavor features, when I'm talking about these creatures I've converted, I always like to look at the flavor text of the card. And the Gruul Scrapper has a pretty good line of flavor text. It says, "The Gruul aren't satisfied with just smashing things. They continue smashing other things with the things that they just smashed." So this is this is sort of the aesthetic and the ethos and the mo of the Gruul, and specifically of the Gruul Scrapper. All right, so now let's take a look at the mechanics, and this is what the Gruul Scrapper becomes when it's converted to D&D. Now, caveat for this is that this is all my game, and anything that you do that's homebrew, I think really has to be homebrewed for your particular game and your particular group of characters and your particular story. And it's very hard to homebrew something and say, "Oh, this is going to be appropriate for every D&D game," but it works for my game. The Gruul Scrapper is a CR6 monster, armor class 20, 157 hit points, 30-foot speed, has the stat block out of from the Hobgoblin Warlord, and also has a lot of other abilities that are out of the Hobgoblin Warlord, because when you look at the abilities the card has and the abilities that the Hobgoblin Warlord have, you can see they line up fairly well. So it was easy to just sort of make some minor tweaks. Like mainly, I made a minor tweak about the hit points, and I made a minor tweak about one of the attacks you'll see later. But pretty much everything else I just left straight out of the Hobgoblin Warlord. Um, so now, speaking of its attacks, multi-attacks just like the Hobgoblin Warlord does. It gets a longsword attack, +9 to hit, and does 1d10 plus 3 slashing damage. Then the Hobgoblin Warlord usually has a shield. This guy doesn't have a shield. So instead of a shield bash, a rock bash, which represents just picking up some piece of masonry or architecture that has been crumbled and just taking that and smashing it into somebody. So the hit does 1d4 plus 3 bludgeoning, and if it's a large or smaller creature, succeed on a DC 14 strength save or be knocked prone. So mechanically, the effect is exactly the same as the shield bash, but flavor-wise, it's a rock or a piece of architecture instead of a shield that's being used. And then javelin, melee or ranged weapon attack, and whoops, there are its stats for that particular attack. Now, it does have special abilities. Now, I put a shield on here because I couldn't find really anything any images from the sites that I typically go to find public domain images that I can use without violating somebody's copyright. But as you'll see, I always like to give credit for where I get them from anyway. I was looking for something to connote leadership, like, a general pointing at troops or something of that nature. I really couldn't find that. So I had a shield that looks like it's probably a shield of a Legion commander or something like that, from Roman days. So it gets martial advantage, and once per turn, the Scrapper can deal an extra 14 or 4d6 damage to a creature it hits with a weapon attack. if that creature is within 5 feet of an ally of the Scrapper that isn't incapacitated. Leadership recharges after a short or long rest. For 1 minute, Scrapper can utter a special command or warning whenever a non-hostile creature it can see within 30 feet makes an attack roll or saving throw. And then that creature can add d4 to its roll, provided it can hear and understand the Scrapper. And then parry. So Scrapper adds 3 to its AC against one melee attack that would hit it. To do so, the Scrapper must see the attacker and be wielding a melee weapon. All right. Now, going back to the card in Magic the Gathering, I always like to do a little bit of trivia and a little bit of, sort of dig into the numbers on the card to talk about where it came from. Gruul Scrapper was released in 2006 with the Guild Pact expansion, and it was a common card. Artwork is by Liam Sharp. It's one of 89 creatures in that set and one of 40 cards that cost 4 mana to cast. It's one of 40 cards requiring green mana. And Gruul Scrapper is also one of only 81 cards across all the expansions in the history of Magic the Gathering to have the word Berserker as part of the subtype of the card. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay. And how did I use this in the Walker of Waterdeep campaign? I arranged for the party to go meet with members of the Zerta clan out in the wastes. On their way back to the city, they were ambushed by members of a rival clan that included a couple of Gruul Scrappers and some other creatures. Scrappers were among the beefy melee creatures that fought the party, while other members of the ambush party either attacked from range or used their spellcasting abilities. There was a druid that summoned an earth elemental that fought the party. There were a few goblins that fired arrows from range. There was another sorcerer type caster that was casting spells. So it was a pretty good ambush, and it wound up giving the party fits there for a while, but they managed to prevail and make it safely back to the city. All right, as I said, no live stream tonight, so no Q&A. I'll just go on into the wrap up. Thank you very much, everybody. I have been DM Gallibond. Normally you can say, oh, okay, this is actually starting yesterday when you're seeing this. Starting yesterday, the new time for Walker of Waterdeep is Sundays at 2 p.m., not 2:30 p.m., but 2 p.m. We run 2 until 6 p.m. on Sundays now. Sword Coast Chronicles is still Thursdays at 8 p.m. Those, along with the normal Monday broadcast of Monster Monday, those are all on Twitch. The archives of everything is up on YouTube. Significant milestone this week. I finished posting the entire series of our story that started in January and ended in May with the Dragon of Icespire Peak. So there's 20 sessions. You can go to YouTube. In the playlist, you'll see the Icespire Peak playlist. You go there and you can watch the entire campaign. All 20 episodes are up there now. I am also gradually going through and populating the back catalog of all of the other live streams that I do. I guess for 6 months when we started the Sunday campaign, I was not recording. I was just streaming and not recording because I didn't quite understand that Twitch doesn't automatically save all of the streams automatically. That if you wanted them saved, you had to actually record them and save them locally and then post them somewhere else. So the first probably 20 episodes of the Walker of Waterdeep are not out there as far as I know, unless there's some way, unless there's some way of going to the Internet Wayback Machine and finding a copy of them back from the time when they were recorded. I'll have to look those up one day and see if I can recover those. If I can, see if I can save them off and then post them on YouTube in the proper order. All right, and last but not least, I do have a Patreon. If you would like to support what we're doing, you'd like to make it possible to do more things and help me get more resources for my games and perhaps expand and do some more games. And there's also some cool perks that people can have if they decide to become a patron over at patreon.com/dmgallibond. Go ahead over there and check it out. And if you like what we're doing, go ahead and throw a couple bucks our way. That would be most appreciated. All right. Thank you very much. Take care. Everybody have a fantastic week. Go City. Hopefully they will win their match and make it to the knockout stages of this tournament that they're in. And I'll just close by saying watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night, everybody.